What's going on, everyone? For today's video, I'm building a diorama of the Mudhorn scene from The Mandalorian Season 1 Episode 2, when Mondo fought the Mudhorn in order to retrieve its egg so that he can trade to the Jawas in exchange for the stolen parts that they took from his ship. If you're new to the channel, I build dioramas of my favorite scenes of my favorite movies, TV shows, and video games, so you can expect more videos relating to Star Wars, video games like Final Fantasy and The Last of Us, and all kinds of random but cool stuff. Don't forget to subscribe if you like this kind of content or if you would like to support my channel and see my channel grow. Also, leave a comment and tell me what you think, what other dioramas I should build. Moving forward, I'm going to do a shout out of my favorite comment, so make sure you bring your A game in the comments section. Now on to the build itself. This is the Mudhorn that I printed from an Elegoo 3D printer. It came in all these different pieces: the body, the legs, the head, the jaw. You can find this same 3D model for your own printing from coles3d.com. It's from a fellow named Desert Octopus. So check him out if you want to try your hands at the Mudhorn or see what else he has in his portfolio. For some reason, when I printed this and added the pegs and the inverted pegs, they didn't quite fit together. So what I had to do is pretty much sand down the peg in order to fit, which was really tiring and taxing. I eventually got fed up with it and brought out some heavier equipment. So using the Dremel, I thought I'd be a lot faster to shave it down, and it was. Make sure you're wearing a mask because all the debris and dust is coming out of here. Definitely not good for your health. Now that I got it sanded down and it fits, next thing I'm going to do is pretty much glue it together using hot glue. Now, even though there's a significant gap between the two halves of the main body section, I'm going to use the handy dandy milliput to fill in that gap so that it's seamless. Next is attaching the legs, and for some strange reason when I printed out these legs, I had two front left legs and no right leg. So I had to go back and print that right leg. Now next is applying the coat of primer. This definitely took a long time. Looking back at it, I think I would have saved a lot of time if I just used a regular brush, but what can you do? I got this particle board. It's a 2x12 particle board that I found at IKEA. And I'm going to use this as my base. And then for the hills or mountains in from this scene, I'm going to use styrofoam stacked on top of each other and use my wire cutter or foam wire cutter to make it more realistic looking. Once I had a pretty good shape, what I'm going to do next is hot glue it down onto the particle board. Next, what I'm doing here is just laying down a layer of plaster mixed with water and Mod Podge. Now onto the paint. I'm using a mixture of Vallejo's mahogany and also burnt umber for the Mudhorn. What I'm doing here is laying down a base coat of Vallejo's Middlestone color for all the higher ground terrain. I follow that up by adding a wash of that same color, just so I can get that paint into all the little nooks and crannies. Now on to the mud. I gotta give a shout out to the Reddit user xwator, XWATOR, for his recommendation of using coffee. And so what I did here for the mud, I just combined coffee, plaster, water, and a little bit of the mud brown paint from Bly Hill. And I think it turned out really well. It also smells amazing. Now on to the figures. These are 3 3/4 inch figures. So I had a pretty good idea of the scene I wanted to recreate from that episode, which is when Mando used his flamethrower to try to fight off the Mudhorn. What I'm doing here is adding the color black for the Mudhorn's cave. Then afterwards what I'm doing is doing a dry brush of the very dark mud brown to the higher terrain. Can't forget about the Mudhorn's horn. So what I'm doing here is measuring out some wire. This is aluminum wire that you can use for crafting. And this is going to be the skeletal structure of the flames. To make the flames more realistic, I am putting together a bunch of red LEDs and then wiring them up. For the flames, I'm using cotton balls. I'm just going to glue them around the LED thing that I created. Once I was happy with the shape, I was on to painting. So for paint, I'm going to lay down a base coat of yellow, followed by some orange and then some red on top of that. Now I'm just going to position it to where I think it looks good, test out the LEDs, and then essentially drill some holes so that I can run those wires to the bottom of the base so that I can hook it up to the battery source. Now to remove the masking of the base. Now that I have everything hooked up, I'm going to hot glue the coin cell battery to the base. Now I need to add more mud to make it more realistic to the scene. As you remember, during the scene, Mando was really muddy, the Mudhorn was really muddy, it was kind of wet, so that's the look I'm trying to go for, so more mud on everything. I was actually quite pleased with how this is turning out. I was a little bit apprehensive and anxious about doing this part, but overall, I'm really satisfied. Needed to touch up the flames a little bit with some more red. And then after all that mud dried, it was looking kind of dry. So what I did next is applied a layer of glossy clear top coat. And this is really bringing it on home, making it real wet and muddy looking, which is really true to the scene. Can't forget about the Mudhorn, he's muddy too. Can't forget about his rifle, that thing was muddy as well. Can't forget about little Grogu. Then just finish it up by adding what was left onto the terrain. And that concludes my video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you aren't already subscribed by now, please do.
This is the way.
If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If there are other dioramas or scenes you want me to build, leave a suggestion in the comment section. Lastly, don't forget to check out my other videos.